Kadosh Boker Or Daf Yomi Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Amud Aleph 75a1. We are talking about right now, is a ben Noach obligated on Kiddush Hashem? And the Gemara says, Vim ita, if you're going to tell me now that he is obligated al pi Kiddush Hashem, lo Elmaleh, so Elisha should not have told him lech Shalom, right? Because this bracha is like a hoda'ah to the actions of Naaman, right? So therefore, right, what's going on? So answers the Gemara, ha betzin'ah ve'ha befarhesia. One of them is going to be betzin'ah, one of them farhesia, which means when Naaman came and he bowed down in Bet Rimon, it was betzin'ah. There was no 10 Jews there, so there was no chilul Hashem. So therefore, he wasn't chayav to give over his neshama, to die, basically, al kiddush Hashem. So therefore, it was mutar lelisha to give him a bracha, lech leshalom, right? But if it would have been befarhesia, he would have been obligated. Okay, but remember, there's always a difference between befarhesia and not befarhesia. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav says of Yehuda Rav, Maaseh be'adam echad shenatan enav be'isha achad ve'la libo tina. There was a person that he had, right, tin'ah, which means, right, he came and he started looking at a woman and he became sick over this woman. So they told him, they asked the doctors. They said, En lo takana shitidba'el. There's no takana until he's going to have relations with her. Amru Chachamim said Chachamim. Yeah, what did they say? Yamut ve'al tibaelo. Let him die. Let him die. Yeah. Here you have a good minute. Yeah. So says the Gemara, Amru Chachamim, right? Yamut ve'al tibaelo. Let him die. He cannot have relations with her. So the Rofim said, fine. Tamol lefanaru oma. At least she should stand in front of him without clothing. Says Chachamim, Yamut ve'al tamol lefanav. So they said the Rofim, okay, fine. Tesaperi mo ma'achorei hagader. Let her speak. Behind the gate. You know what I mean behind the gate? Mamash, like put him in a cage. You understand? Like mamash, like and let them speak to each other. He said, Yamut ve'al tesaperi mo ma'achorei hagader. So he says, Pligi bar Rabbi Yaakov baridi v'Shmuel ben Nachman. Echad amar eshet ish hayta, ve'echad amar pnuya hayta.
פה מדברים על גילוי עריות.
Yes.
היא לא מישהי במשפחה שלי.
No. סתם גילוי עריות. גילוי עריות. גילוי עריות, meaning revealing. You understand? Yeah, no משפחה. סתם גילוי עריות. But what are we talking about? We're talking about, though, it's a machloket. Was she a married woman? Because I understand if she's a married woman, okay, fine, you're going to say, listen, she's married, what? He's going to have relations with her. He's going to come and see her without clothing. I'm saying, she's a married woman. You know, even to speak to her, that just shows you, right, what it is, even speaking. We're talking about mamash, to speak to her, flirting with her, and they're acharei gader. He can't do anything until he smashes himself into the gader. There's nothing we can do. Asur. But the other one says it's a pnuya. So says the Gemara, Shapid. Listen, I understand she's an Eshetish. I understand the rabbis, right? But it says Mandamar Pnuyaita, my kulehai. It says one second, but she's a Pnuya. So what's the big deal? She's not married. So fine, I understand that the beginning parts that he can't have relations with her, he can't see her without clothing, right? Fine. But not even to speak to her? Like what's Mamash, he have to tell me he has to die? Rav Papa Amar Mishum Gam Mishpacha. He says, no, it's Gam Mishpacha. He says, anything that you're going to do with this girl, it's like a defect. Because everyone's going to say, look, this girl had to speak to this guy, whatever. So even if it's Mamash speaking, not even Mamash being without clothing. But Rav Dika Amar Kedesh Liu Binot Yisrael Prutzot Barayot. It's another reason. Not because of the Pagam of the Mishpacha, but rather we don't want the Not Yisrael to be Prutzot Barayot. A Bat Yisrael has to understand she's a Bat Melech. And as being a Bat Melech, everyone has to understand, no, she's off limits. Even speaking behind the gader, what's the big deal? No, even that is a su. Yeah, why? Prutzot ba'arayot. We don't want them to do that. So says the Gemara, fine. Pavelinsa minsa. Says, but one second, if he's sick, and she's a pnuya, let him get married to her. There's no b'gam mishpacha, no prutzot ba'arayot. Let him just get married to her. Answers the Gemara, lo miyatva dateh. He says, no, if he would get married to her, so then he's not going to be happy anymore. It's not going to fill him. It's not going to fulfill him. He says, why? Because Rabbi Yitzchak. Exactly. The Rabbi Yitzchak, מיום בית המקדש, שנדלת טעם ביאה, וניתנה לעוברי עבירה. שנאמר, מים גנובים ימתקו ולחם סתרים ינם. Stolen waters are sweeter. Meaning, the second that, and by the way, you should know this happens all the time. You don't understand how many times it happens that somebody comes and they commit adultery. Yeah, they cheat. And they cheat. Now they're both married. And they both go and they both cheat. So he cheated on his wife and she cheated on the husband. And then what happens? Right? They fall in love. And all of a sudden, they both get divorced and they get married to each other. And then what happens? They both get divorced. Why? Because it was excitement. It was the mind ginuvim. The second that now it's not stolen anymore. It's not and that's why we said, right? The grass is always greener on the other side. But we said that's why always, right? That was the story in the end of Nazir or Nidarim. You remember there was a story, I don't remember if it was Nazir or Nidarim, that you remember we said that the guy came in, right? The husband came home, he was going to eat from something, and all of a sudden the guy came from the bedroom and he said, don't eat it, there's a snake that ate the poison. You remember? So we went and we said, 1 second, that's a proof that he didn't actually do anything. Because if Bemet, he would have done so. He would have said, let him die, and then that's it. He would have taken the wife. But what did the Gemara answer? It's not a proof. Why is it not a proof? Because maybe Bemet, he didn't want him to die. Because if he would have died, there's no adrenaline anymore. You understand? There's nothing there. You understand? But it all depends. You understand? But anyway. Okay. So says the Gemara, Hadran alach Ben Sorer Umoreh. We finish the chapter of Ben Sorer Umoreh. We're not going to start Perek Shii, the 9th chapter. Okay, this is Perek Shii, the Mishnah. Ve'elu en nisrafim. These are the people that are going to be burnt. Habali shall bita. If somebody's going to have relations with a woman and her daughter. Ubat Kohen shazinta, the daughter of a Kohen that she does more relations. Yesh bichlalu shel bita, bito, ubat beno, ubat ishto, ubat bena, bita, ubat bena. Now, the punishment is mefurash, and the Torah is going to also, right, that even if it's not from his wife, meaning if somebody's going to be with bito, because it says over here, bito, ubat beno, that means even if it's not going to be his wife, coming from his wife, also, if he goes with his own daughter, but it's like a stepdaughter, you know what I'm meaning? It's not his real daughter, right, because it came from the wife, right? Or he says, sorry, the first one was bito bat beno, that it was from his wife, and the other one was not from his wife, bat ishto. Okay, so in any cases of wife, the daughter, granddaughter, it doesn't matter whether the granddaughter comes from either side or from the wife's daughter or granddaughter. Also, he will be killed with burning. The same halacha would apply to chamoto ve'em chamoto ve'em chamiv, meaning like this: any immoral relations that has to do with upwards or downwards. Upwards means the mother-in-law or the mother-in-law's mother-in-law, doesn't matter which mother-in-law, and serefa. It's not regular chenek. Usually for immorality, right, with a married woman is usually going to be what? Is usually going to be chenek. Here it's not, it's serefa. That's getting burnt, okay? And also downwards. So the daughter and granddaughters, doesn't matter from which side. Okay? Until here we're clear? Yeah, everyone clear? Okay. Next, says the Gemara. Habali shashanasa bita, right? If somebody comes and he has relations with a woman, right, that he got married to the daughter. Lo katani ela habali sha ubita. So tzmashma mikal de tavayu li isura. So tzmashma that he had relations with the mother and daughter. So tzmashma that they were both isur. Umaninu, so who's that? Chamoto ve'em chamoto. The mother-in-law and the mother of the mother-in-law. Yeah? Okay. The Ktani, so we learned, now you understand why there's serefa. It's like, yeah. He says, Yesh bichlal isha bita miklal, the tarvai kutivi be'edia. Ve'hanach midrasha atya. He says, this is going to be from a drasha. It's not actually written mefurash. So, hani chalabai, this is good according to Abaye, the amar mashmaut dor shinika benayhu, that we come and we have the mashmaut, which means, how do you doresh the pasuk? So, who is our Mishnah? Rabbi Kivai. But according to Rava, that he says, chamoto le'achar mita yika benayhu, that we're talking about the mother-in-law after the death. Meaning that what happens if the wife already passed away? Now can he live with the mother-in-law? So matzniti mani, who's the Mishnah then? Amalei Rava says, Tani habal isha shenesa'a lebita. What does that mean? That the chiyuv srefa in the pasuk is talking about only somebody that had relations with the chamoto and not the em chamoto, not the mother of the mother-in-law. Okay, fine. So it says the two dots. Yesh bichlal isha ubita chamoto ve'em chamiv. So according to Abaya, I did kabbalah mitni em chamiv, tanim chamoto v'em chamoto. If you already said the mother-in-law of the father-in-law, meaning your father-in-law's mother, yeah, your father-in-law's mother. So therefore, we're also going to teach also chamoto v'em chamoto, the mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's mother. But Rava, yeah, I did the kabbalah mitne em chamiv v'em chamoto. Since we already taught the mother of the father-in-law and the mother of the mother-in-law, right? So he says tani nami chamoto. So that we also learned the mother-in-law. Okay, even though it's mefurash in the Torah, right? Because you already know that. Menana mile, how do we know these words? Right? That basically, how do we know that all these 9 cases, that means there's 9 women that a person gets srefa for. 9 women. Okay, you've got daughter, right? You've got the granddaughter, right? Now it's the granddaughter from both sides because it doesn't matter if it's the daughter's daughter or son's daughter. Then you have from the wife's daughter, okay, and the daughter on both sides, the granddaughter on both sides. Then you have the mother-in-law, right, and the mother-in-law on 2 sides. Okay, so that's going to be 9, correct? Yeah, makes sense. How do you know that on these 9 you're going to be? So he says, Tanu Rabbanan, v'isha sheyikach et isha vet ima zimahi. This is the pasuk. The pasuk says in Kedoshim over there that a woman that's going to come and take a woman and her mother. So it's zima, and therefore you're going to burn both of them. En li ela isha v'ima. That's only the wife and the mother. Bat isha ubat bita ubat benamina. Now, how do you know also the daughter of the wife or the daughter, you know, the daughter of each one, the daughter of the daughter, or the daughter of the son? How do you know? So it's nemar kan zima, nemar lalan zima. It says zima, and it also says that if somebody comes and he has relations with bat ishto, bat bita, it's also written zima. So just like over there, meaning gzera shava, zima, zima. Zima, by the way, is immorality, right? Is immoral. So he says, just like the pasuk over there is talking about, right? Zima, zima, zima. So he says, bitau bat bena afkan, bitau bat bena. So therefore, just like over there, we're also talking about the pasuk is being kolel. It's adding in also his own daughter and his own granddaughters from both sides. So to here, it's going to also be the daughter and the granddaughters on both sides. So from here, basically, this is where we learn that a person is going to be obligated serefa. So this, by the way, I think we call it in English, I think this is called incest. Meaning it's such a stam immorality that a person just comes. If a person lives with his own daughter, it's called incest, right? Or the same thing with the granddaughters over here. You understand? Huh? So says the Gemara. Yeah. So minayin la'asot zecharim kenekevot. How do we know that the males are like the females to do with serefa? Because it says over here zima to do the punishment. V'ne'emar lehalan zima. Just like over there, zecharim are like the nekevot. So to here, zecharim nekevot. So minayin la'asot, right? Give me lemala. Ne'emar kan zima v'ne'emar lehalan zima. Just like over there, lemata kilma lafkan kilmata. Right, lemala, which means basically what we're trying to do is that because we said that it doesn't matter, there's no difference between if it's going to be a grandchild from the son or from the daughter. And we also went upwards from the father-in-law and the mother-in-law. And we're talking about obviously the mother-in-law of each side. So how do we know that we're doing that the males are like the females? So he said zima. And the same halacha would apply upwards and downwards because it's all going to be the same thing of zima, meaning that just like it's going to go downwards and upwards, the same halacha. So Amar Mor, Minal Lasot Zechrin Kinekevot, my Zechrin Kinekevot. If you're going to tell me now, Bat Bena, the son, the daughter of the son, Kebapita, it's always written in the same pasuk. So what does that mean? Why do you even have a Havamina? Meaning we asked it, Kilu, how do you know that your granddaughter, which is the son of your, the daughter of your son, Selamim Shos like the daughter of your daughter, but it's written in the pasuk together. Ela, but rather, em chamim kem chamoto, the mother-in-law of your father, like the mother-in-law of, meaning your father's mother, your father-in-law's mother, like your mother-in-law's mother. So he says, hashta em chamoto lo kamalan, right? Em chamim me'adarale. So he says, if we're not really even sure about em chamoto, so why are you asking then on em chamiv? Em chamiv is the mother of your father-in-law. So if the mother of your mother-in-law were not 100%, sure. So how about the mother and the mother-in-law? Ein Hamud Bet. Yes, 75b. So Amar Abaye says, Hachi Kamar. This is what it means to say. Minayin la'asot she'er haba mimenu keshe'er haba mimena. How do we know that we're going to make equal the krovot, which are coming from the zachar, to the krovot that are coming from the nekeva? Which means, how do we know that even if somebody comes on his daughter or his granddaughter, that they came from a pnuya, that he's going to be chayav serefa, right, on somebody that is going to be that it's mamash that they're married? That's the question. Meaning like this, even though there's a blood relation, because at the end of the day, your granddaughter or your daughter is your daughter. I don't care if there's marriage or not marriage, right? It's out of wedlock, but it's still your daughter. But how do you know mitzad halacha it's the same halacha? Because at the end of the day, your daughter is because you're married to a woman, and now this is your daughter. But if you're not married to the woman, so therefore maybe Bemet it doesn't have the same halachot as a daughter or a granddaughter, because she was never even married to you. You're right, there's a blood relationship, but remember, many times in the Torah, a blood relationship does not count. There's halachic relationships, you understand? Meaning, it's not because of that it's doing that. So many times we see that there's going to be a difference, right? So he says, by him, it's not written zima. So Amar Rava says, Amar li Yitzchak Baradimi, Atya henna. No, there's another Gzera Shava. It says henna. So it says zima, which means we are coming and we're saying henna by both, and we're saying zima, but it says erva ba pincha ba pitcha lo tegel ervatan lo tegel ervatan ki ervatecha henna, and it says also right ervati shau bita lo tegel ba benav yabidu lo tikal lo shara henna zimahi. So therefore, since it says henna is the word. These are erva. These are. So henna is a gzera shava to both of them together, and zima is also a gzera shava to both of them together. So therefore, what happens is that just like henna, you're putting them both together, whether it's mamash bat pincha or bat bitecha, or ishal bita or bat pena bat bita. So therefore, it's henna. So it's either even if it's going to be a family relationship or not, meaning that you're married to her or not. And we're doing zima, that it's zima, so it goes upwards and downwards the same way. So Amar More says, Minayin lasot lemata ki lemala. How do we know that we go downwards just like we go upwards? My lemata ki lemata. What does it mean that you're going downwards? If you're going to tell me now, bapena babita kibita, that your granddaughter, whether it doesn't matter which side, is like your daughter, it's written in the same pasuk. It says, right? It's the same pasuk. So he says, Ella em chami ve'em chamoto ka chamoto. So he says, no, we're talking about the mother of your father-in-law and the mother of your mother-in-law. So says the Gemara, that's not downwards, that's upwards. Remember, you go downwards and upwards. Downwards is your daughter and granddaughters from both sides, right? Son and daughter. Upwards is your mother-in-law, but also the mother-in-laws. What do you mean mother-in-laws? From both sides. So your father-in-law's mother and your mother-in-law's mother. So those are the going upwards. So the Gemara says, if we're going upwards, that's not downwards, that's upwards. Okay? Yes. Yeah. He says like this. Says the Gemara, Amar Abaye now comes and he says. So we just said that there was going to be, right? How do we know that to make a share b'mena? So he said it says zima, then it says henna. So how do we go upwards? So Tani, we said lemala kilamata. Upwards is like downwards. So it says over here zima, and it says over there zima, just like over there, right? It didn't even have to write it. So to zima didag, it is written. This is what he's saying. How do we know that we're going to make 3 generations upwards, like 3 generations downwards? One more time. How did you have the 3 generations downwards? We said it was going to be the wife, the daughter, and the granddaughters. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's from the son or the daughter. And then we're going 3 generations upwards. The wife, the mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law's mother-in-law, and the father-in-law's mother. Exactly, the father-in-law's mother. Yeah. So therefore, that's 3 generations. So he says Ne'emar lemata zima, and it says Ne'emar lemala zima. Just like lemata, you go 3 generations. So to lemala, you're going to go 3 generations. Uma be'onesh asa lemata ki lemala. So to be'azara also asa lemala ki lemata. So says the Gemara, Rashi Amar Olam kedektan yomai lemata yisur. He says the chomer yisur, which means according to him, we're going to say that chamoto or em chamiv is lemata, which means that it's ki'ilu, they're further away. So it's a lighter isur. It's not as bad as an isur because it's further away. Meaning the father-in-law's mother or the mother-in-law's mother is much further away. He says 1 second, but just like over there, em chamoto is prohibited. So to now, right, is going to be also prohibited. So he says, right. So he says it should only be nisur d'Rabbanan. Sam Rabbi says the pasuk says imechahi. Mishum imo ata mechayev mishum emimo. You're only going to be mechayev oto mishum imo, but not emimo, which means it's only the mother, but not the grandmother. So he says, Rava says, whether it's according to the mandamar, dom minau minau, beleman dok minau, ve'oki batra, which means that you're going to judge it from the actual halacha, or you're going to come and take it from the other way around, right? Which means that you're going to learn the ikar halacha, but then afterwards you have to actually put the details. Lo atia leman da'amar don mina umina. Mahi, just like over there, em ima is going to be asura. So to here also, afunami, em imo is going to be asura. Umina, what is mina? Go back to the details. Mahi besrefa, afunami besrefa. So he says, Lemanda amar srefa chamura. If you're going to tell me now that srefa is even worse than sekila, ikala mifrach, so then you could ask the following question: Malehi shekeni ma bisrefa, tomar behu sheimo beskila. Ve'od imo beskila, em imo besrefa. How could it be? Ve'od, and furthermore, mahi lo chilakti ba ben ima le'em ima, afu lo tachlok bo ben ima leben ima. Uman damar sekila chamura mahai kushya lo nidona. So therefore, you don't have this question at all. Okay? Gemara. That's the Gemara one more time. So we just explained domina mina. We learned the ikar of the halacha from the grandmother from the other side of the grandmother, which means just like the wife's grandmother is prohibited, so too your grandmother is prohibited. So that's domina. You're learning the ikar of the halacha. But now the mina. What is the mina? The punishment. What is the punishment of the wife's grandmother sirifa? So to the person's grandmother sirifa. So says the Gemara, but leman damar sirifa chamura. If you're going to tell me now the sirifa is more strict, you're going to ask, Malehi sheken ima bisrifa, tomar behu sheimo biskila. It doesn't make sense. How could it be that the own mother is sikila and now the grandmother is sirifa? Why? Because you learned sirifa from the grandmother of the wife. You understood? So how does that work? And furthermore, how could it be that his own mother is sikila and the grandmother is sirifa, which is more chamur? Again, we're going according to the mandamar that sirifa is more chamur than sikila. If you're right now, I'm going to tell everyone here, what's worse, a person that lives with his mother or grandmother? What would you tell me? Probably the mother, right? You would probably tell me, listen, the grandmother also, maybe just because of age, so people think like, what's going on. But be'emet, a person would say, listen, the mother's much worse than the grand. So how could it be that the mother's sekila and then the grandmother's sirifa, which is a higher level according to the shita, that sirifa is yoter chamur, me this. So he says, mahi, just like the kruvot ishto, you didn't differentiate between the mother and the grandmother. So to here also, we didn't differentiate between the mother and the grandmother. But according to the mandamar sekila sirefa, mahai kushya lo nidona. Right? So then again, we're not going to have this question then, right? Because we're saying the gezerah shava from the im chamoto. How do you do also to make for the punishment then? It doesn't make sense. Now let's go to the other one. You remember what was the other one? Dok mina, don mina, viuki batra. Again, don mina means you're learning the halacha from it. So again, your grandmother, how do you know your grandmother's prohibited? Because of the grandmother of the wife. So to he who afimo basura, emimo zasura, veuki batra. But you have to place it in the halacha. Where's the halacha? Hatamudu b'srefa valhacha here b'skila. Kede ashkacha, just like we found it. B'imo. Leman damar srefo chamura ikal mifrach. So then you could ask the question: Malehi sheken ima bisrefa tomar behu sheimo biskila. Ve'odem furthermore, hu kehi mahi lo chilakta beba ben bita uben ima. Just like you didn't differentiate between ima and bita, so to here you didn't differentiate between bito le'emimo. So too, according to mandamar sekila chamura, from here also you cannot ask this question, right, of the gzera shava from em chamoto.